Hello everyone, wherever you are around the world, welcome to the Storytelling Circle here at the Storytelling Cafe. My name's Dave Tong, sometimes called the Yarnsmith of Norwich. Know that I travel a land telling my tales. I wander the road bringing wonder wherever I go. Except at this point in time, I cannot wander. Not many of us can. But it doesn't mean that we can't enjoy sharing stories. So wherever you are in the world, I want you to imagine now that you're actually with me, sitting around a roaring fire. Because you know what? Even though the sun is shining bright, as you can see here in Norfolk, it's still blessed cold. Perhaps we're in a great lord's great hall. Perhaps we're in the alehouse, sitting amongst the horny-handed sons and daughters of toil, laughing our aches and ailments away, for a while anyway. As I say, pick the place that pleases you most and enjoy my stories. And so hearken unto my words and hold your tongues, for I have a tale to tell. And my first story this day, well, it's a Tudor tale. I say Tudor because it was first published, printed at that time. And it links to what was going on at the time, for this was a time when people were being forced off the land. They were losing their land to sheep, enclosure, to all kinds of practices. They had no work, and so they went in search of it in towns. They were vagrants. They were looked upon with suspicion. And the sad thing is that we still do that today when new people come to our land, and perhaps we will do it even more now that there are people walking past our doors who we do not know. But anyway, it influenced lots of stories at the time, including this one. For this is a story about a poor man, a man who had nothing. Now, I'm sure some of you are quite poor, others, perhaps you're more fortunate. But when I don't have any money, I find myself thinking about that stuff I haven't got. Even I sometimes want more. And there was one such a man. He was walking along the road when he met a peddler coming the other way. Now, for those who do not know, long ago you didn't go to the shop. The shop came to you. The peddler would travel with a great wicker pack upon his back, calling out, "What do you lack? What do you lack? What will you buy from the pack on my back?" And in his pack he sold all manner of wares, from pots to potions to pins. But on this particular day, this particular peddler was also selling a fine knife. And when the poor man looked at it, he went, "Oh," and "ah." He had never seen the like. Light danced up and down the blade, and it looked sharp enough that you could draw blood from the very wind itself. Then there was the hilt, the handle of the dagger. A gold thread ran up and around to a great jewel at its end. A jewel the size of my fist, I kid you not. It was that big. Now what sort of jewel it was he did not know, for he was a simple man, much like me. But he felt certain that that jewel was fine enough to grace a king's crown. He felt certain if he could have that knife hanging from his belt, it would show him to be a man of great worth. Someone of great importance. Oh, how he wished the knife could be his. But as the peddler told him, it was indeed a fair and fine knife, for it was worth 40 shillings, and that was a lot of coin long ago. Too much for a poor man. And so he turned and began to walk away. But as he did, the peddler called him back. He said, "Hold on, my friend, hold on. Come back here, we haven't finished talking, you and I. I can see you like this here knife. And do you know what? The knife likes you. I can see if you had that knife hanging from your belt, it would show you to be a man of great worth, someone of great importance. So how about we do a deal, you and I? Instead of selling you that knife for a lot of coin, I'm going to give it to you for free, for nothing. All you have to do is give me something worth nothing when I return in 7 days' time." Easy, thought the poor man. That's easy. I can easily think of something worth nothing. They shook hands upon the bargain. But no sooner did they shake hands than the peddler spoke once more. He said, "But wait, my friend, but wait. If when I return in 7 days' time you can't pay me with something worth nothing, I shall want my 40 shillings. If I can't have my 40 shillings, I shall want your soul." But the peddler was not really a peddler. The peddler was the devil himself in disguise. Had the poor man looked down, he would have seen the devil's horny hoofs, his thick hairy legs sticking out from beneath the peddler's coat. But he hadn't. And now it was too late. The deal had been done. There was no going back. He was forced to take that dagger home, that thing of beauty. And this is the point in my story where, as a storyteller, I wish I had a tale about trains, because that would have worked just well. But just let's move on. Had it been hanging from his belt, it would have shown him to be a man of great worth. But now it was hidden in the poor man's pack, for he was more concerned with thinking of something worth nothing with which he could pay the devil. Now, can anyone here think of something worth nothing? Something worth now? Now, I can't hear you, I can't see you, so I'm imagining you all thinking, like that, looking very learned, except him over there. He's thinking, I'm not doing it. Well, perhaps it was a feather. Maybe a feather from a goose. That's it, he said. I shall give a feather to the devil. A feather has no value. But think on, think of long ago. There are many uses for a feather, for you can fletch an arrow, you can make a duster out of it, you can fill a rich man's mattress to rest his weary head upon. There were many uses for a feather. But at that moment there came another loud knock from the door. I missed the first one. You see, this is live storytelling, but I'm going to go for it this time. That train, it went. It was the devil, and the devil was clearly in a good mood. Oh no, said the poor man. He fell to his knees. Not this time a feather did he see, but he saw some straw. And he said, that's it. Surely straw has value. I shall give straw to the devil. But think on, think of long ago. Could he really give straw to the devil? Has straw no value? What can you do with straw? Well, of course, there were many uses for straw long ago. You could scatter it on the floor as they had done, a kind of carpet in many ways. You can stuff a poor man's mattress with it. You can thatch a roof. There are many uses for straw. But at that moment there came another loud knock at the door. It went. It was the devil again. He was clearly in a good mood. Oh no, said the poor man, it's the devil come to take me. What can I do? He cast himself into the corner of the room. He turned his head to the wall, hoping if he could not see the devil, then the devil would not see him. But as he did, he smelt the air, and the air smelt bad, for he could smell dung. He could smell the muck of man and beast. That's poo to some of you, and something else to the rest of you. He said, that's it. Surely dung has no value. I shall give dung to the devil. But think on. Think of long, long ago. Could he really give dung to the devil? Has dung no value? What can you do with dung? Well, there are many uses. You can dry it out and burn it on the fire. You can patch a poor man's walls with dung. You can even throw it at the storyteller if he's not very good. But moving on very quickly, there came another loud knock at the door. It went. It was the devil, and the devil was clearly in a good mood. Oh no, said the poor man, as once again he fell to his knees. But his wife came into the room, and she was angry. Angry at the deed he'd done. Angrier still that she had the devil knocking at her door. Off to town with you, foolish man, said she. I shall deal with this well enough. And no sooner had he gone than the wise woman, she fetched a narrow-necked jug, an empty pot. Now it just so happened to be her husband's piss pot, but we'll say no more about that. And she set the pot high on a shelf so that none could see inside. And then and only then did she let the devil in her door. And before he had a chance to speak, she says to him, I know you're earned well enough. You come for payment, haven't you? And old Hob, the devil himself, he said, Yes, I have. Well, said the woman, reach up into yonder pot and take what's rightfully yours. The devil stood high upon his horny hooves. He reached into the pot and he began to feel around. It was a very big piss pot. And what do you think he found? Nothing. What have you got there then? Asked the woman. Nothing, said the devil. Nought. Well, said the woman, you asked for nothing, now you have nothing. Be off with you, sling your hook. The devil, he smashed the pot hard upon the floor, angry at having lost the man's soul, angrier still that he'd been tricked by a woman, but content in the knowledge he would meet many a less fortunate fool, many a less fortunate man on the road that day. And there ends my first story. And I think at this time, I should say, although the pot had nothing in it, none of us can live on nothing. And this is where I mention the hat. Now, it's not my fair and fine hat, nice though it be. I'm talking about the virtual hat, the digital hat. You'll find it below this video. If you like what I'm doing, if you like what any of the storytellers are doing, be sure to donate whatever you can. We'll make good use of it. Although I won't be able to pay to stop the trains, but there you go. Well, moving on very quickly, I've got another story for you. Here's a good one. There was once a cobbler. In fact, there were 3 cobblers. We shall call them the cobblers 3. They were taking their boots and shoes to market to sell. First came the old master cobbler. He looked a bit like John Rowe with a big old white bushy beard. A man who had been at his trade for many years. There wasn't a thing he didn't know about making fine boots and shoes. Next came his journeyman, man who was also skilled at his trade. He was a handsome fellow, looked a bit like me. Well, following both of them came the apprentice, the boy, a beardless youth. He had lots to learn about shoemaking. The 3 had been walking for many, many miles. Their feet were sore, their bellies were empty, and their packs weighed heavy upon their backs. And so it was they decided to stop at a crossroads where the road splits in 3, where the road goes left, goes right, goes in between, there to enjoy a simple meal of bread, cheese, and a good strong ale. Who here likes a good strong ale? Quite a lot of you, I think. But you should know this. It is unwise to stop at a crossroads, for where the road splits in 3, where the road goes left, goes right, goes in between, there is always the question, which way will we continue our journey? Will we go left? Will we go right? Will we go in between? And where there was such a question long ago, it was often said that the devil himself would be waiting. He's in most of my stories, you see. Perhaps he would be hiding in your pack. Perhaps he would be hiding right behind you. He's there now, look! For no sooner did they sit down than up popped the devil. Now they could tell straight where it was the devil, because the devil has horny hoofs for shoes, thick hairy legs for trousers, a long tail which lish behind him. He had 2 small horns atop his head. He had a wicked look in his eye, like that one there. Not that one there, that one there. And he had a wicked laugh, for he went, "No ha 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 ha! No ha! No ha! No ha! No ha!" Now all of you would have run away to protect your souls, but not the cobblers 3. For the old master cobbler, who looked a bit like John Rowe with a long white bushy beard, he went, "All right," and the devil, he bowed low in reply. And so it was the handsome journeyman, who looked a bit like me, the boy. They looked the devil in the eye, they went, "All right," and once more the devil, he bowed low in reply. And the old master noticed that the devil was eyeing their simple fare of bread and cheese and a good strong ale. And so he invited him to sit a while, to sit and eat and sup. And so they sat, they ate, they supped, the cobblers 3 and the devil. And as they sat and ate and supped, they talked of many things. They talked of the price of barley and rye. They talked of corruption in the church. They talked of the terrors of the plague, but we'll say no more about that this day, except to say the devil, he liked talking about that best of all. And when they finally finished, the devil stood up. He brushed the crumbs from his hairy legs, and he thanked all 3 for their kindness. For there were very few would keep his company, let alone share their food with him. And so grateful was the devil himself, he said he would grant each of them a wish. "Whatever you want in this world," said he, "it shall be yours. By virtue of his great age, the old master chose first. Know that he knew all there was to know about boots and shoes, soles and heels, but he did not know what held the sun up in the sky, and he wished he did. And so his wish was a simple one. He said, I wish to be twice as clever as I am now. Is it all you want? Asked the devil, for it's not much. Oh, I know, said the old man, but it's what I want. Are you sure? Asked the devil. Oh, yes, says he, I'm sure. Are you sure that you are sure? Asked the devil. Yes, says he, I am certain. The devil fixed the old man with his wicked eye. He clapped his hands together. The skies darkened overhead. There was a clap of thunder and a flash of lightning. And I wish it was granted. The old master was twice as clever as once he had been. Well, next it was a turn of the handsome journeyman to choose. Not wanting to be outdone by the old master, he said, I want to be 4 times as clever as I am now. Are you sure? Asked the devil. Oh, yes, says he, I am sure. Are you sure that you are sure? Asked the devil. Yes, said he, I am certain. The devil fixed the journeyman with his wicked eye. He clapped his hands together. The skies darkened overhead. There was a clap of thunder and a flash of lightning. And I wish it was granted. For the journeyman was 4 times as clever as once he had been. Well, finally it was the turn of the boy to choose. He knew nothing of boots and shoes, soles and heels. Such things were of no interest to him. In truth, they wouldn't have been to me either at that age. He said, I want to be 8 times. No, 10 times. No, 12 times as clever as I am now. 12 times, says the devil, that's a lot. Oh, I know, said the lad, but it's what I want. Are you sure? Asked the devil. Oh, yes, says he, I am sure. Are you sure that you are sure? Asked the devil. Yes, said the lad, I am certain. The devil fixed him with his wicked eye. He went, Naha! 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 He clapped his hands together. The skies darkened overhead. There was a clap of thunder and a flash of lightning, and I wish it was granted. For the boy was 12 times as clever as once he had been. For the boy had become a girl. Half of you are laughing at that one, the others thinking, maybe not. Well, remember that hat. Remember my hat. It's a fine hat. Remember all hats. Keep your head warm in winter. It's always worth thinking about a hat. But for the moment, shall we crack on with another tale? Sad or thoughtful? Do you know what? Let's get a bit wise. Let's get a bit thoughtful. This is a story about a friar, a man of God long ago. This was a story that was also popular in Tudor times, which was surprising because, this is the time of the Reformation in Britain. They weren't liking monks and priests and friars and nuns that much. But perhaps it's because this particular friar was a wise and clever man. His name was Friar Bacon, not fried bacon, Friar Bacon. A man who was so wise and so clever, it was said that if you stood next to him, and you listened, and you listened, and you listened, it was said you could hear his skull creak and groan as it worked hard to keep all of that wisdom inside. I wonder if any of you are as clever as him. For once there was a lord who had died. But know this, his had not been an easy death, for he had 3 sons, all with many faults and few merits, or so he thought. And so he could never decide who should become the next lord when he was dead and gone. And so he'd fudged it. He'd left it in his will it should be the son who had loved him the most. Well, no sooner had the lord died than the 3 sons began to argue amongst themselves about who should become the next lord who had loved their father the most. Each claimed to have loved their father twice as much as the other 2 put together. Such were their claims, they reached the ears of the king, for all 3 were his wards. He listened patiently as each claimed to have loved their father twice as much as the other 2 put together. So persuasive were all 3 that even he couldn't decide. And so he sent for the wisest man in England at that time, Friar Bacon. Friar Bacon came, and he listened patiently as all three sons claimed to have loved their father twice as much as the other two put together. Even he couldn't decide between them. And so it was, he had an idea. He ordered that their father's mouldering corpse be fetched from the tomb, that it be lashed to a tree. He offered each of them one arrow and held out a bow, ordering that each in turn shoot their arrow at their father's body. And the one who gets closest to the father's heart, he shall be the winner, he shall inherit the land. Well, the eldest son snatched a bow from Bacon. He fitted arrow to bow, he leant, he aimed, he loosed. The arrow flew through the air, whirring and humming. It struck its target, it found its mark. It hit the corpse of the father, but it did not touch his heart. The second son snatched a bow from the eldest. He fitted arrow to bow, he leant, he aimed, he loosed. The arrow, it whirred, it hummed, it spun, it twirled. It struck its target, hitting his father in the chest. But again it did not touch the dead man's heart. And so it was the youngest son took the bow from the middle son. He fitted arrow to bow, he leant, he aimed. But now boy, body and bow began to shiver and shake. A bead of sweat, or was it perhaps a tear, ran down his cheek. He dropped to his knees, aiming the bow skyward, loosing the arrow so it flew high over the trees and disappeared into the fields beyond. And he said, I cannot do it. I cannot shoot my own father's body. Thus proving that it was he who had loved his father the most. Thus proving that he should become the next Lord. Thus proving that Friar Bacon truly was a wise and clever man. Ooh, thoughtful one. I like to think you're going, ooh, wherever you may be. But you know what, we've had thoughtful. I think it's time for sad. And maybe if there's time, then we'll get a bit silly. We'll work through the different types of tale. Now, I wonder if any of you out there have been in love. Many of you will be in love right now. And I always say about love that it's lovely, but it's also lovely. It can turn you on your head once in a while. And if you don't believe me, here's another tale that was very popular in Tudor times. It's about a young gentleman in far-off Italy, a young nobleman. He lived in a great court set within a rich city. He had everything his heart desired, save only a love to share in all of his good fortune. Now that's not to say he was not in love. He was. Alas, the object he desired the most, the woman he loved most in this world, she was already married to another man. She was a high-born noble lady. He was a high-born noble knight. And together they had one son of about 8 or 9 years of age. The young gentleman's love was in love with another, but it did not stop him trying to woo her, trying to win her heart. Now know this, if you've never done any wooing, you should have a go. It's wonderful. I love wooing. The only problem with wooing is this, it costs a lot of coin. He spent all of his money just trying to capture her eye, her attention. He paid the best tailors in the land to make him the finest slashed doublets that he wore at many a courtly dance. He paid the best armourers to make him the finest emblazoned, engraved armour which he wore at the tilt and the joust. But never once did she return his favour. Never once did the high-born noble lady look upon the young gentleman with love. His only solace came in the form of a gerfalcon, a hunting hawk. And so when he wasn't in that fine city, you would find him out in the countryside, flying the bird of prey. He would laugh as it swooped high and darted low. He would smile as it cut the air like the sharpest of blades, sometimes no more than a distant speck in the firmament, until, folding back its wings, it spit forth its poison, slamming into its prey, taking hold of everything it set its eye upon. Just as its master, the young gentleman, he wished he could take hold of that high-born noble lady, although he could not. And in truth, sometimes he wished he was as free as the bird when it flew high in the heavens above. For whenever that high-born noble lady came close, it was like a strange madness came upon him. It was as if love truly trampled upon his wits. He lost control of his mind, his body, even his purse. He was made poor by desire. I've been made poor by desire, that's why I have to earn a living doing this. I'm sure many of you have too. But he was made so poor that he was forced to leave the great court set within the rich city, to take up residence in a pauper's cottage where none could see his shame, taking only his beloved gerfalcon with him, his only friend in a cruel and heartless world. Time passed. A year passed. A great pestilence, a plague, fell upon the city, claiming many lives. It took the husband of the high-born noble lady. So too her son was stricken with the disease. In great haste she ordered that her servants pack up her many belongings, that she leave the great court set within the rich city, that she take up residence in a fair and fine mansion out in the countryside, overlooking field and fen, in the hope that the clean pure air, it would cure her ailing son. But as the days turned into weeks, the boy grew sicker still. Even though she paid the best doctors in the land to attend him, none could cure him. None knew what was wrong with him. Was it the plague? Or was it the loss of the boy's father that was sucking the life from his soul? None could tell. Although they did see that the boy seemed to get a little better when he was allowed to leave his bed, to sit upon a chair and look out of a window, where he watched a poor man flying a bird of prey, a gerfalcon. Well, none knew what a poor man was doing with such an expensive and rare bird of prey, but none cared. For the ailing boy, he would laugh as it swooped high and darted low. He would smile as broad as a lesser man's shoulders as it cut the air like the sharpest of blades. But no sooner did the poor man take the bird from the fields than again the boy took to his bed sick again. None knew what a poor man was doing with such a fair and fine bird of prey. And so it was, the high-born noble lady, she sent her servants out into the land so that they might find out more of this strange poor man who lived on the edge of her estates. And when they returned and told her it was the young gentleman, well, there was joy skipping in her heart, for she knew it to be that lad who had often tried to woo her, who had tried to win her by promising her anything her heart desired. And so she thought, I know, I will offer to buy the bird of prey from him, because he clearly has need of the coin, as I have need of that bird to cure my ailing son. She sent her servants to see the poor gentleman once more, to tell him that she wished to dine with him, for that she had a favour to ask. When he heard this, the young gentleman, he was overjoyed. He thought, at last that lady has come to her senses. At last she will be mine. But it was a joy tinged with sadness. For now he was a poor man. How could he afford to feast, to dine a high-born noble lady such as she? But he would not risk losing her again. And so it was he sent her servants back, saying that he would feast her at his house the following night at dawn. Or was it dusk? Yeah, dawn, that's silly, that's breakfast. Dusk it would have been. And the following evening she arrived at the poor man's cottage. She appeared not to notice a few mean sticks of furniture, the lack of comfort within. And now he fed her upon simple fare. The gentleman did as he listened to her tale of woe, how the plague had come to the city, how it had claimed the life of her beloved husband, how it threatened the life of her beloved son. With tears welling in her eyes, she said, My son only seems to get a little better when he watches you flying your bird of prey. And now with those tears dripping from her cheeks upon the hardened earth floor, she said, If you were to let me buy that bird from you, I feel my son would be well again soon. If you were to let me to buy your gerfalcon, I would be forever in your debt. But now the poor gentleman, he too had tears in his eyes. The smile he had worn all evening, it wore thin. He dropped to one knee. He took one of her hands in one of his, and he said, My lady, in times past I swore to give you anything that it was in my power to give. But I cannot give you the gerfalcon, for knowing that I was to entertain you this night, knowing that I was to feast you, I have already given you that which I love most. Opening up his other hand, there was the falcon hood, its hunting belt, and he cast them down onto the plate where its bones still lie. He stood up before the lady, he bowed low, and he left. What happened to the poor young gentleman, or the ailing son of that woman, I cannot say, for there my story ends. Now, that was a sad tale, perhaps too sad for some of you. These are sad times, but you know what? We should also smile in these times, and so I've got a silly tale for you now. Would you like to hear a silly tale? Are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? Well, know this, I love trickster tales. And one of my favourite tricksters is a man called Till Eulenspiegel, or Eulenspiegel. There are many different versions of his name, and if you're in Germany now, you're probably cringing at my terrible pronunciation. So I'll call him the anglicised version of his name, Howleglass. Know this, there was once a trickster, a beguiler of the foolish, a coney-catching cunning man, and try saying that when you're drunk. His name was Howleglass. He travelled from town to town, village to village, house to house, wearing many different disguises. Sometimes a priest, sometimes a potter, sometimes a peddler of wares. But on this occasion, on this day, he arrived at a certain town disguised as a scholar, a young student. He went abroad about the town, claiming that he was the wisest man in the whole of the land, and that none could match his wit. Such were his boasts, they reached the ears of the Chancellor of the University, where all the wisest men did dwell. Now, quite where all the wise women dwelt, I've no idea, for there wasn't room for them all in one university. The Chancellor, he heard about Howleglass's boasts about being a great scholar. He was having none of that. He sent his herald with a challenge to the trickster. The herald went to Howleglass's lodgings and he said, know this, if you can answer 3 questions set by my master, you will be rewarded with 100 gold coins. But, said the herald, but, says he, if you cannot answer but one of them, then you shall be whipped through the streets of this town. Know, my friends, that a lesser trickster, well, he would have fled, but not Howleglass. The following day he arrived at the university disguised in scholar's cap and gown. He bowed low to the Chancellor. He bowed low to all the other good scholars gathered there, wise and clever people, much like yourselves. Well, the Chancellor wasted no time. He said, tell me this if you can. Tell me, what am I thinking? The trickster Howleglass, he smiled broadly, for the answer was easy. He said, you are thinking that you are more clever than me. All of the scholars there, they all gathered together, and do you know what? Ceres just started talking to me. You can tell this is live storytelling, can't you? Shut up. All of the other storytellers gathered there. Not storytellers, all of the other scholars gathered there. Although they could have been storytellers. Who's to say? I don't know. All of them began to laugh loudly, for of course Howleglass spoke true. The Chancellor could not argue with that. And so it was, he asked his second question. He said, tell me this if you can. Tell me, how many hairs are there in my beard? Howleglass, he smiled broadly, for the answer was easy. Stepping forward, he plucked one hair from the Chancellor's chubby chin, and he said, there is exactly one less now than there was 1 moment ago. All of the scholars, all of the storytellers gathered there, they all laughed loudly, for of course Howleglass spoke true. The Chancellor, he could not argue with that. And so he asked his third question, hoping that the mock master would not get the better of him again. Tell me, said he, tell me if you can, how many stars are there in the night sky? Howleglass smiled broadly, for the answer was easy. For now he pointed to a bearskin rug that lay in front of the Chancellor's throne. He said there are exactly the same amount of stars in the sky as there are hairs in that rug. Know that this time the other scholars, they did not laugh. For now the Chancellor leapt to his feet. He leapt from the throne, roaring rude words at Hourglass, saying, "How can you possibly know that?" For the first time, the trickster looked worried. Perhaps he was pondering upon the Chancellor's wicked whip. But then he smiled broadly again and said, "Why, my lord, I forgot that last night when I was out walking, I saw a shooting star falling from the sky." Once more he stepped forward and plucked another hair, except this time from the bearskin rug. And he said, Now there are the same amount of stars in the sky as there are hairs in that rug." Again, all of the other scholars gathered there. They all laughed loudly, although the Chancellor did not. For he was too lazy to count the hairs in the rug, or even the stars in the sky, too mean to pay another to do it. And so it was, Hourglass left, weighed down with 100 gold coins. A fine story, that one. Did you like it? I liked it a lot. Well, my time is running short. What shall I tell now? I'm going to have to go at my list. You know, I've got so many I want to tell you. Here's a story. It's about bad King John. Now, if you're from England at this point, you'll all be going, boo! But you've all got a boo, because you know this, he wasn't a very nice king. Many medieval kings weren't that nice, but he was seen as particularly bad. They called him Bad King John. Not bad. They called him Horrible King John. Even better. They called him Not Very Nice King John. Because he didn't care about the likes of you, me, or even that man just sitting over there. All John cared about was hunting. Each and every day he would ride out from one of his many castles with a fine bird of prey, a hunting hawk upon his arm. Like that one there, you can all see it, can't you? He would ride out with his long dogs running at his horse's hooves. He would go hunting in the forest for the wild boar and the deer. And when it was cooked, he would feast upon all that was caught. But one day, word got out that bad King John, he wanted to go hunting near the village of Gotham. But when the people of that village heard, they thought, oh no, this cannot be. For if bad King John starts to hunt our land, we won't be able to hunt our land. If we're caught hunting our land, when bad King John hunts our land, he'll pluck out our eyes, he'll cut off our hands, he might even hang us by the neck until we are dead. What can we do? Well, what could they do? They came together in a fair and fine meeting, much like this. They talked and they talked and they talked. They made a plan, and they waited for the king's men to come. Now, they didn't have to wait very long, because a few days later, the king's herald, the king's messenger, rode into the village of Gotham. Why he was doing this for, I've no idea. And as he rode into the village, he looked all around, and as he looked all around, he thought, this is very strange. For normally when he rode into the village, or any village for that matter, people would run from their houses to see the fine men upon their fine horses. But the village was quiet, and this wasn't even a time of social isolation. But still there was no one around. He continued riding through the village until he got to the pond. And when he got to the pond, he saw a girl. A girl just like you over there. Except she wasn't smiling broadly, and I hope you are smiling. She was crying. She was sad. Tears were running down her face. And so it was as the Lord said, my child, my poor girl, what ails you? Why are you so sad? And the girl spoke these words. She said, it's the moon from up in the sky has drowned. For just last night as I walked past the pond, I saw the moon in the pond. I tried to save her. I tried to pull her out with me stick. But I couldn't, and now she's sunk beneath the water. The moon is dead. Some of you are looking aghast. Some of you are thinking, poor moon. But of course, it wasn't the moon. It was the reflection. Hands up if you knew that. You knew that, you knew that, you knew that, I knew that. Even the herald knew that. He said, this girl is clearly mad. She is a fool. We'd best be on our way. But they hadn't gone far when they heard the crash of a door slamming, and now a man came running down the road holding a wriggly, slippery eel, a fish in his hands. He leapt into the pond, splosh. He held the fish underwater and said, that'll learn you, fish. The herald looked at the man standing in the pond up to his knees holding the fish underwater, and he said, why, oh why are you doing that? And the man spoke these words, listen. He said, this fish is a bad fish. This fish is a greedy fish, for it ate all the other fish in the pond. And so we've decided to punish it. We've decided to drown the fish in the pond. Well, of course, fish live in water, as you all know, I'm sure. Most of you anyway. Hands up if you knew that. Good. You knew that, you knew that, I knew that. The herald knew that. He thought, this man is clearly mad. He is a fool. We'd best be on our way. But they hadn't gone very far when they met an old man riding upon an even older horse. He was riding upon a horse, yet still he carried a heavy sack of grain upon his back. And so heavy was the sack upon the old man's back, he was forced to lean over the horse's neck as he rode along. And so when they got close, the herald said, tell me, old friend, why do you ride upon a horse, yet still you carry a heavy sack on your own back? Why not put the sack on the horse's back so that you don't have to carry it? But the old man, he looked at the herald as if he was mad. He said, I would not be so cruel. My horse is very old. My horse is very tired. I carry the sack on my back so that the poor old beastie doesn't have to carry it. Some of you are tittering there, laughing, that is, giggling. Why? Well, of course, it's because, the horse was carrying the man and the sack upon his back. Hands up if you knew that. You knew that, you knew that, you knew that. I knew that. The herald knew that. He said, this old man is bad. We'd best be on our way. Once more, he began to ride through the village. But he hadn't gone very far when he met many of the girls of Gotham, many of the boys of Gotham, many of the old folk of Gotham, all coming the other way, each and every one carrying a heavy bundle of wood under each arm, huffing and puffing under the hot summer sun. And when they got close, the herald said, tell me, my friends, why are you carrying those great big heavy bundles of wood? Why not go to Dave Tong's garden and watch him tell a story? He's doing a good job. Apart from the odd mistake with trains and phones, that is. But the oldest one amongst them stepped forward, an old man, and he said, Herald, Herald, do you see over there that there is a field? And the herald looked, and he saw a wide open field. Herald, Herald, says the old man, do you see in that field that there is a tall, tall tree? And sure enough, when the herald looked, he saw a tall oak tree. Herald, Herald, says the old man, do you see in that tree that there is a cuckoo bird? And it's the prettiest cuckoo that we ever seen. And it's got the prettiest cuckoo that we have ever heard. You know what must be done. It was as pretty as that. So pretty as the cuckoo, said the old man, what we're going to do is this. We're going to take our bundles of wood and we're going to build a low fence all the way around that tall tree so that we can trap that bird, so that we can keep that cuckoo bird for our own. Well, one more time I ask you, was that a very wise thing to do? Well, of course it wasn't. The bird could fly over the low fence. Hands up if you agree. You knew that, they knew that, I knew that, the herald knew that. He said, these people are mad. They are more mad than the girl who thought the moon had drowned. They are more foolish than the man who tried to drown a fish. They are even more cuckoo, well, than anyone else for that matter. We'd best be on our way. Quickly they rode all the way out of the village, all the way back to bad King John. And the herald said, John, for he knew him very well. He said, John, whatever you do, do not go hunting near the village of Gotham, for they are a village of fools. And so it was, bad King John, he never went hunting in that village. They kept their wild boar and their deer for their own. For whilst they were a village of fools, there was much wisdom, there was much cleverness in their madness. And just as another train comes, my stories come to an end. Here it comes. With no one on it, funnily enough. But there you go. There my stories must end. All I must say before I go is thank you for listening to my stories. Don't forget the hat, not just my fine hat, but the virtual hat below where you can donate to any of the storytellers you'll see down there. And also to tell you that tonight at 7 o'clock, another storyteller, a good friend of mine called Shane Hibbs, he shall be entertaining you. Hopefully there will be no trains bothering him. Hopefully he'll remember to switch his phone off. Switch your phone off, Shane. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.